The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops cancels its invitation for Bishop Michael Bransfield to attend their fall meeting next week in Baltimore. The former head of the Wheeling-Charleston, West Virginia Diocese faces allegations of sexual abuse and financial misconduct. For more news from a Catholic perspective, visit EWTNnews.com. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie starts now.
Hi there, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. I am Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani, and the show team, Rich, Jeff, and Ryan are all in place. And we are live, Debbie. We told people yesterday at the end of the show, due to maintenance, EWTN was going to do some routine maintenance and we would have a pre-recorded show, but they got done in a jiffy, so we are actually live today.
I'm really glad because I was having withdrawals already, weren't you?
Yeah.
It felt weird. It just felt strange. I was like, okay, doesn't feel right. And then when Rich sent the email, we're like, yes, definitely, let's go live. So this is exciting because we get to do one of the shows that was suggested by one of our loyal listeners. So I'm excited about this, Jerry.
All right, well, we're going to give the phone number and remind you, and you don't need reminding about this, it's your show. You drive the show with your wisdom, your insights, your thoughts, perspectives, lived experiences, you name it, 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986. And Debbie, what is that topic that our listener suggested?
They asked if we could do an entire show on if people think we live in a shallow world. And where this, how this came about was they were thinking about. Apparently, there's a few. It has to talk about some of our political leaders. A few politicians that there were polls taken or something of that nature. That even though they disagreed with the things they stood for, they liked them and would follow them because they were good looking. And she felt that was very, shallow because you're not basing it on facts or the issues. You're basing it on a personality and the way someone visually appears. And so you say, oh, this person looks nice or is pretty or is handsome or whatever. Oh, I'm going to follow them. Not even taking into consideration that they could be expressing and promoting things that are totally anti-Catholic. And so she said, could you do a show that, am I the only one that thinks we live in a shallow world? So here's the question. Do you Take Two family? Do you think we live in a shallow world? And you can relate that to any topic that you think that may pertain. I know that Rich Jesse, our producer, just brought up this news story that just came out, Jerry, of Maryland that maybe you want to share. And that's another thing that is, I think, very shallow in people to take a person's life over a chicken sandwich.
Yeah, you talk about shallow. I guess it was at a Popeyes restaurant in Maryland, and somebody cut in the line, and a fight kind of started there, and I guess it moved outside. And one man stabbed another man to death because of it. You talk about shallow. I mean, that is thoughtless. That's pointless. It's absolutely tragic and ridiculous. But, and we're not judging anybody who was involved in that, but really over something like that, and I can, going down the path you were going down a minute ago, Debbie, I think of college and especially professional athletics. Mm-hmm. You've got wife beaters, you've got people who do all kinds of egregious things, and they get a little 2-game, 4-game slap on the wrist suspension, and then they're back. And of course, the fans give them a pass, just because, hey, he's my running back, he's my defensive end, I certainly can't stop rooting for him, So
right.
There are so many areas in life where we just really approach things not from from a perspective of real depth and substance, but from real surface and shallow.
Well, what about Hollywood, Jerry? Perfect example. I mean, just because you have a favorite actor that has been in a movie that you like and has somehow you remember, you think just because they played that character that they're a fine individual when they're outside of that role. It's really interesting when you look at it. We can relate this, and you're right. We're not being judgmental, but let's look at this from a Catholic perspective. We are here to get to heaven. We are here to get back to God. Okay, and if we're following people for these shallow reasons, what does that say about us first, and then also what does it say about where we're going? Because we're a lot of these people, I hate to say it, but it's true, Jerry. A lot of these folks, they have very little sense of where they're going sometimes. And when you hear their interviews and their biography and their life stories, you're like, are you kidding me? You still didn't get it? You're at the end of your life and you still don't get that all the gifts that God has given you were for the glory of God. I think, was it Patricia Heaton just said that recently? It was all over Facebook. And she said something about, we're to use our gifts for the glory of God. I amened it and I sent it out and shared it as well because it's so true. When are we going to learn that, right, Jer?
That's right. So where do you see shallowness in your world? Maybe in the workplace, maybe at the gym. We go to the gym, we see a lot of shallowness, I think. But again, we're not taking anyone to judgment here. It's just we really want to talk about how, as Debbie said, we're called to get to heaven and to take others with us. 833-288-3986. Share your experience of this. And Debbie, as you know, I just got back from Mass, and the gospel reading this morning was of the king or whoever he was invites people to the banquet, and Jesus, as he's telling the story, he gives 3 examples of people who gave excuses. One had just bought a field, I've got to go tend to that. One had some oxen that he had to attend to, and the other just married a woman and had to be with her. And then he says, okay, go out into the highways and the byways and the streets and the alleys and all of that. So it's maybe a perfect gospel for today's topic because were those excuses valid enough to keep them from going to the king's banquet that they invited him to?
Right. Well, yeah. Well, perfect timing. Isn't it so interesting how these topics we don't necessarily check all the daily readings and the saint of the day and everything. Isn't it interesting, Jerry, after 4.5 years, how these topics are so perfectly aligned with what's happening and what we know as Catholic Christians? I think it's amazing. It's definitely the Holy Spirit. I just feel it.
I couldn't agree more. And we do have lines filling up there. I see a couple of open phone lines talking about, is the world, at least the world that you inhabit and the world that you see around you and on media and so forth, do we live in a shallow world, one that is really kind of surface? We just kind of judge everything and value everything just based on what we see, just what's on the surface. Or do you tend to inhabit a world that you see a little bit more depth and a little bit more substance? Please contribute to the conversation because we all learn and grow and become better here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie because of what you share at 833-288-3986.
So please don't sit this out. Please don't just listen to us for the entire hour talking about what we feel is a shallow world.
Things.
Yeah, we want to hear from you at 833-288-3986. Fill up those phone lines like you always do on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We just love you guys because what you have to say, we are listening to. When we come back, we're going right to the phones to hear what you think about this shallow world.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
And we need to pray for all our world leaders and all those who are in such danger. See, in a day and age where people are getting further away from God, you get further away from goodness. Only God is good. You remember what our Lord said one day? Why do you call me good, he said. Only God is good. Only God.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Part of the success we've had on the world over, I attribute to certainly my relationship with Mother Angelica and her teaching me early on that when you sit with someone, you talk to them, you share with them, and you create an environment where they will tell you things they wouldn't tell anyone else.
The World Over with Raymond Arroyo, Thursday night, 8 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Catholic radio, I believe, is the greatest tool for evangelization that the church has today. And I know this because we hear from people all over the world that tell us all the time they came to faith in Christ, in the Catholic Church, through Catholic radio. Guy that lives right next door to you, he might not ask you about your Catholic faith, but he'll ask us. He'll call in and say, tell me about the Catholic Church.
Dr. David Anders thinks Catholic radio is important. So should you.
Good to be with you on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We are live today. I'll prove it to you. It's November 5th. There. What we said at the end of yesterday's show, we thought we were going to be airing an encore show today, but those engineers and folks at EWTN are fast. They got their routine maintenance done. So we are with you live and looking forward to hearing your takes about, do we live in a shallow world? And we're going to get right to your calls. I want to mention, though, first, I had the great joy of hosting Catholic Answers Live yesterday. I'll host it a few times next week. And it is a show that is near and dear to my heart. And tonight at 6 Eastern Time, it's an open forum. You get to ask anything you want. EWTN's Vice President of Theology, Colin Donovan, is on hour number 1. And Tim Staples is on hour number 2. So be sure you tune in. Guest host Sherry Brownrigg today.
Yay.
On Catholic
That's
Answers
awesome.
Live at 6 Eastern. There you go.
I love that. Oh, yeah. I love when, I absolutely love Cy Kellett, of course, but when you guys guest host, I think it's really awesome as well. It's so nice to hear that. And did you say Tim Staples is going to be the second hour? So Colin Donovan the first and Tim the second. Okay, perfect. All right. There are some open phone lines, maybe because you guys thought that this was an encore, but it's not. We're real, live. It's not Memorex. Remember that old commercial?
Yeah, is it live or is it Memorex?
Why do I do that lately? I'm totally dating ourselves. That's horrible.
Maybe because it's your
birthday week. Do you know, I said that so many times yesterday. I got all these great comments. It was great. But it's kind of a little weird that I had to fish for the comments, but I got them. Okay, we want to hear from you. 833-288-3986. During this wonderful conversation about if we live in a shallow world, we want to hear from you. So if you have something to say, get to the phones. 833-288-EWTN. First up is Leslie, and Leslie's in Leeds, Alabama, listening on Guadalupe Radio. Hi, Leslie. Thanks for being first up on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how are y'all today?
Doing
Great.
pretty well.
How are you?
Wonderful. Comment about, are we living in a shallow world? That's pretty obvious. And I relate it back to when I was growing up in Alabama. There was a gentleman that was running for governor named Charles Woods, who was a decorated war hero, had a wonderful character. He had been burned pretty much to where he didn't have any facial features. He was not elected governor of Alabama, which he would have been a fabulous governor. And then if you look at our society, what we consider beautiful this day and time through social media, TV, Hollywood, what they tell us is beautiful and what we would need to aspire to be like or look like shows that we are concerned about appearance more than character. And that goes all the way up to political realms such as the presidency. Because of all the focus made on President Trump's hair, it was obvious that people were more focused on his appearance and his hair than the substance of his political stance and character. And, that goes back to John Kennedy. I remember growing up, all the mothers talking about how good-looking he was, but I don't ever remember them talking about, his political views and what he stood for. So as a child, I was very aware that was talked about, and, of course, our youth can't get away from it at all now because they're so tied into technology. And it's kind of disturbing because we do need to focus on a person's character, what they say, not what they do instead of what they say they're going to do, and not necessarily how they look.
Yeah. Well, Leslie, you're making a lot of great points, and just to touch upon a couple of them, we mentioned on this show, we've done whole shows on this, but it comes up quite often on many of our shows, and that is the whole social media thing, and it's not just young people nowadays, it's people of all ages. If you walk by somebody, even in the grocery store or on the street or wherever you happen to be, their face is usually buried in a gadget somewhere, and if that becomes someone's entire world, that is beyond shallow, because there's nothing in that thing that can really love you and care for you, except that you think that stuff is in there. But the other thing, you mentioned the politics, and God rest my mother's soul. She died a few years ago. When she went to the poll to vote, she looked for the D next to the candidate's name, no matter what the race was, no matter what the issue was, because that was what her family did. She grew up, Debbie, they were Democrats. Democrats were the party of the people. And when you go back 50, 60, 70 years, it was a different Democratic Party. But I would watch her do this, and I would say, do you not consider, maybe abortion or some of these things in their platform? And I'm not judging my mother. God, this was so ingrained in her. But, these are the kinds of things that we sometimes find ourselves doing without really diving deep into the substance.
Right. And there are pro-life Democrats. So, I mean, let's state that. But you're right about being educated. I'm not saying your mother not educated. I'm saying that she went along the family lines. Okay. But to really do the research and to understand the issues that are being put forth, I think that's an obligation for us as Catholic Christians. And we need to go past the visual. That is the first thing that kind of ignites how we feel about people, because let's face it, we're visual. A lot of us are visual. You look at people who fall in love. What it was love at first sight. Okay, it's not love at first talk. It's love at first sight. And so, yeah, I think we need to go past that if we're going to really fully live out our baptismal call. I agree with that, Jerry. That we need to really step it up. Leslie, what do you think?
Absolutely. And when you made the comment, love at first sight, you need to find out what their character is as opposed to your visual view of them. Because there's been a lot of scallywags that look really good,
You got it. I saw that, there was that show on one of the cable networks of the true story of John. I can't think of his last name, but he was apparently, for the world's purpose, he was good looking, and then he seduced that rich lady, and then they got married. And it turns out he was nothing like he said he was, and he tried to he attempted to tried to kill her daughter, and it was horrible, and he ended up dying. But see, that's exactly my point. And when they talked to this lady about what made her believe him. You know what she said? Well, he was nice and he was good looking. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've heard it said a few times that Charles Manson was also had a charming character as well. I mean, right. Yeah, I agree. We've got.
I think it goes back to where are you spiritually, and how in tune are you with seeking truth. And researching, like you said, about their voting history. They can tell you anything all day long, but our responsibility is to see what they voted for. Not the party, but the person. Not the look, but the character.
Yeah. And again, I want everyone to be very, very clear. I'm not criticizing my mother at all. It was just ingrained in her from her family. And if you were to ask her, I mean, she was a very devout woman. If you'd asked her about abortion, she would have been staunchly pro-life and staunchly, everything the Catholic Church holds and believes. I think we can just get a blind spot once in a while, and that maybe it was what happened with her, and maybe with some other people, but. Anyway, Leslie, thank you very much for calling in right close by EWTN headquarters there in Leeds, Alabama. We appreciate that. And there is a line open as we talk about, do we live in a shallow world? And what can we do about it? 833-288-3986.
Okay, we are going to Laura is next in Phoenix, Arizona, listening on the EWTN app. Hi, Laura. Welcome.
Hi, Jerry and Debbie. Happy birthday week, Debbie.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you.
Unsolicited.
Unsolicited. Hey, guys, I love this topic, but I have to throw in my 2 cents. I think a lot of folks would think about shallow, and in some cases, shallowness does apply. But I think if you look at the way the world has turned, unfortunately, I think shallowness has given way actually to selfishness. And I think that has actually become more of a problem. If you look at everything from abortion to gender, reassignment, and cosmetic companies now choosing men as their, models because they look better in a dress than a woman does, because they have a selfish agenda that they want to push. Abortion. I don't want to be bothered with a child, so therefore I'm going to end the life. I don't think it's so much shallowness anymore as it is, it's me, it's all about me and whatever affects me, and I don't care about the greater good of the world, the greater good of my country, my children, their children. I just want to take care of me right now, and I think that's part of the larger problem.
What do you think, Deb?
Well, no, I agree. I was actually taking notes as you were speaking, Laura. I think we live in a world where it's all about me. That's why when you look at the New Age movement, it's interesting because I actually have studied it for many years in life skills, and the New Age principles, they have hijacked what we know as the principles in a lot of them in Christianity, Judeo-Christian Christianity. Okay, so they've hijacked them. And why have they done that? Because if you look at the New Age movement, the majority of it revolves around the person. The universe is all about me. I control the universe. I send things out to the universe, and the universe responds to me. It's all about me and the universe. And so it's really sad. And I think people get a really rude awakening when something happens to them and they realize that they are on the wrong path about this. And then they don't know what to do. You can see them scrambling because they don't have a solid relationship with God, or they lost somewhat of ground with God. And so guess what? They struggle when things happen to them. So what do? They go to the next fix, the next thing that's going to help them still maintain their own self-centered way. It's very sad. I feel sorry for them because we know life is going to deal some really hard things to them. And how do you cope if you don't have a relationship with God? I don't know if that's where you were going to continue to go with it, Laura, but I agree with you that I think we have. I mean, this thing with being shallow but being selfish, I think selfish is the governing force right now. Did I capture that somewhat right?
I couldn't agree with you more. If you think of things, for example, like the book The Secret, I unfortunately know folks that buy into that. They don't buy into you have to suffer and you have to give to others and you have to face disappointments and have your faith and all of that. They just buy into that New Age concept of claim it, give it to the universe and it'll give you whatever you want. And you're right, it is sad because life is difficult. Our Lord told us we were going to have to pick up our cross. There is redemption and suffering. And, I agree with you 100%.
Oh, thank you. And it's not just because it's my birthday week?
No, but that doesn't hurt.
You know what, Laura and Debbie, I would introduce another word here as well. We're talking about shallowness, and Laura, you said selfishness. I would introduce the word maybe laziness as well, because for us to go beyond being shallow and to really understand the substance of whatever it is that we have in front of us there, it takes a little bit of effort. It takes, maybe reading, studying, praying, getting familiar with something. And, this whole idea of selfishness, I was reminded, when you said that, of the old saying, the unholy trinity, me, myself, and I. And, selfishness, ultimately leads to isolation. And what is hell? Hell is eternal isolation. It's isolation from God and isolation from one another. So I think you made some great points, Laura. Appreciate your contribution to the program.
Thank you, guys. are fabulous. I love you, and I hope you both have a blessed day.
Thank you. We love you too, Laura. Thank you so much. Enjoy the beautiful day today. I don't want to brag, but we start off really cool in the morning in Arizona, and we get up to about 82, 83, 85 degrees. So it's kind of like a perfect day. This is why we live here for these months.
In these months, yeah.
In these months, yeah. God bless you, Laura. Thank you. Call again. Okay, Jerry, we are going to get ready to hit the pause button in a bit, but can I do a little housekeeping real quickly, if I may?
Absolutely.
Okay, our second month of the book club has it's underway with Father Benedict Rochelle's. I'm holding the book up right now. Can you all see it on YouTube and Facebook? Benedict Rochelle's book, Arise from Darkness, What to Do When Life Doesn't Make Sense. This is a fabulous book. I suggest if you want to get in the book club, there's plenty of time. Get the book. Go to jerryanddebbie.com, register, and then or go onto the Inspired by Faith book club on Facebook and ask to join. And Gigi will. Oh, Jerry, you got your book. There's yours. I won't ask you what page you're on. What page are you on?
I am on the introduction right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think I'm on 44 or 45. Great book, you guys. So make sure you join us. jerryanddebbie.com, information's there, or the Inspired by Faith Book Club on Facebook. Gigi is our facilitator. She's doing a fabulous job. And I think we have close to 30 folks. And you can get the book on EWTNRC.com, and they'll ship it right away. Okay.
Okay, we're going to go back to your calls. Stay with us, Christian, and then Marlene, and then we have Stand Tall Carol, and it looks like we have Kristen as well. We're talking about, do we live in a shallow world? And we would love your input, your insights, your lived experiences on this at 833-288-3986.
Al Cresta.
The secular press just doesn't get our story. They don't even understand it. And so it's incumbent upon us to get the story straight and get the story out.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Jumpstart your faith. Now coming to a parish conference or retreat near you, world-renowned Catholic radio host Jerry Usher.
It's not enough to stop doing whatever it is that's keeping you from union with God. For most of us, there are serious issues that need to be addressed first in order to be able to embrace that life of virtue. All those things we're all called to, but which every one of us struggles to achieve.
Invite Jerry Usher today. Contact thirdmillenniummedia.com.
I called my wife to complain angrily about traffic the other day, and she said, I sympathize with you, but I gotta call you on to holiness right now because I love you. I love my wife for that. She told me a story that she heard of a young seminarian who was serving with the Missionaries of Charity. He was scrubbing a bathroom floor and was complaining while he was doing it. He was in a horrible mood. And this missionary of charity walked by him and laughed. And he said, "What are you doing? Why are you laughing?" She said, "I'm laughing because you're totally wasting your time." He asked, "What are you talking about?" She said, "If you're not doing your work with love, you're totally wasting your sacrifice." Look, suffering is an unavoidable part of everyday life. But you have the power to make it a fruitful part of your spiritual life. Get intentional about offering it up in love. Anyone can do a good day well. When you suffer, when you struggle, that's your moment to become a saint. Don't waste it. Send us a message at connect@reallifecatholic.com. This is Chris Stefanik from reallifecatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Hi, this is Janet Williams. You don't have to be a woman to enjoy Women of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
We're asking the question today, do you feel we live in a shallow world? This came as a suggestion from one of our listeners, and when you suggest a topic, we pretty much have put pretty much everything on the show calendar. So if you'd like to suggest some topics, please do so by emailing at take2@ewtn.com. It comes right to us, and we can reply, and we can even let you know sometimes when it airs. Now, sometimes if we don't let you know when it airs, it's just because our show calendar it moves a little depending on if we have part twos and stuff that happens. So please be understanding of that fact, because we're going live, and that's exciting. Okay, back to the phones we shall go, as Christian's been waiting so patiently in Hays, Kansas on Divine Mercy Radio. Hi, Christian. Welcome.
Hello. Hello, Debbie and Jerry, and happy birthday, Debbie. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
My point was that we need to respect our elders. I think that not just because it's your birthday, but that's something that I think society has dwindled down the respect of elders, because there's so much wisdom that we can get from them. But yet, with the new age of computers and things, we look towards our younger generation to fill us in what we need to do. The computer's always right. It's not our elders that we look for history. If you look through history and you talk to your elders, then you can see the pattern of behavior, and that's just ignored now. It's all about right now. Look at the rest homes; they're full, and people really need to respect their elders more. I just think that's very shallow not to.
I think you're right, Christian. You make an absolutely fantastic point. We've done whole shows on, the fact that we have so many of our elders, our parents, grandparents, and so forth, in skilled nursing facilities, rest homes and things like that. And as you were talking, I'm just thinking we are so disconnected from our elders, not just our elders, but our extended family. And I think it's the world we live in right now. 2 or 3 generations ago, and it still happens in some places. Families, the kids grow up and they kind of stay in that area, and they have families, and you've got all these large families, and of course that's maybe predominantly in rural America, but not exclusively. But if we have to learn everything, like you're saying, from technology, if that's going to be our teacher, if the spirit of the age is going to be our teacher and not the people who have gone before us, we're going to be poorly educated, and I think very, very shallow. Debbie, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more. And I just want to say, you were so polite, Christian, maybe because it's in your name. But I'm not going to be as polite, because I have been dealing with this in assisted living places and memory care facilities with my mom for almost 10 years. And I'm going to say something that is probably going to make people, squirm. I feel that a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people, they feel that once these seniors get to a certain age and have certain issues like dementia or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or something of that nature, they become useless. They have no value anymore. There's nothing they can offer this world. They've lived a great life. It's time for them to be put out to pasture. You know what? It's so sad and so disrespectful and so frankly sinful. I can't even stomach it sometimes. There were times I left the assisted living places in tears, watching people treat these beautiful elderly people, men and women who have raised families and had successful careers and were productive in life, and most of the people I met were very spiritual, very religious, and they were treated like they were problems and burdens, and it just made me sick. And I think I'm going to say what my mother's always said: be careful what you do, because it may come back to bite you someday. And that's all I'm going to say. What do you think, Christian? Was I too rough?
Not at all. I see that. I recognized that in high school when I used to work with the elderly in the rest homes and the long-term care. I loved it. I learned so much, and I've been in places where that respect is just gone, taking care of them, and I would get in trouble because I would take too much time in a room, but that's what they needed. And I think all of that would transfer over to the Catholic faith in the last several generations that we've pushed aside, and it's just something that we can take care of. We don't listen to our elders in the church, our saints. And once we do dive into the saints and the genius of Catholicism, it's so much deeper. We just can grow from that. And if we do that with our elders, with our grandmas and grandpas and the neighbors down the street, we can also grow in what life is all about.
That is a great point, Christian. Great point about our elders in the church, our older brothers and sisters, and hopefully we all do try and learn from them. We celebrate their feast days. Hopefully we read up on the saints and so forth. And I think we are impoverished to the degree that we don't do that as Catholic Christians, and to the degree, Debbie, that we don't do that with our extended families. Now, some people simply don't have access. Maybe grandparents have passed away, or parents, are not living, or some don't have that opportunity to have that access to that history. But I think it's unfortunate that when it's available and we don't take advantage of it. I think it's very unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, this is why we have these great conversations, so we can all learn and grow and become, walk away a little bit better, a bit better understanding of ourselves, the world around us, closer to God. So thank you, Christian. Thank you so very much for gracing this conversation today. We really, really appreciate it. Okay, now you can go on and have a beautiful day in Hays, Kansas. Okay, Marlene, you're up next in Park Rapids, Minnesota on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Marlene, and welcome to Take Two.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
I just wanted to comment back. Okay. I just wanted to kind of comment back to what Jerry said about his mom always voting Democrat and that. And, how we pick our candidates on, a shallow type of a thing. The same thing happened to me when I was growing up. But the thing about it that I just need to get off my chest today is I'm very pro-life, and I am a Democrat. And it really hurts me when I get lumped into this group of abortionists when I don't believe that way. And I know what Our Lady said at Medjugorje, that God was angry about all the abortions and that they had to stop, and he was no longer going to protect America. And it is true. But on the other hand, I can't accept the innocent slaughter of Kurdish people, the beheading of Kurdish people. Men put on the Supreme Court accused of sexual, acts against women. And the poor, the way that America is hating our ethnic brothers and sisters, the hatred in the country now, this is not of Jesus. I am a Democrat, and abortion has to stop. But when we stand before God, and we each will, we're all accountable for everything we do on this earth, each one individually. The women that have done this will face God alone. It will not be the Democratic Party. If they chose to murder their child, they will stand before God and answer to him. So I guess I just want to say to Jerry, it hurts me to be lumped into this group that I'm an abortionist. I'm not. I'm very pro-life, but I am a Democrat. And I guess I just had to get that off my chest this morning.
Well, Marlene, thank you for doing that. And I just applaud you for all that you stand for in the Democratic Party. And I tried to make it abundantly clear when I was discussing about my mother that she was staunchly pro-life. I just felt like with her, there was just a little bit of a blind spot there. And Debbie made some comments that maybe you want to touch upon too, Debbie. But it's not a party thing at all. I was just referring to my mother simply. It was ingrained in her, perhaps like you alluded to with yourself early in life. That's just kind of how you grew up. But my mother, the Democrats were a fantastic party. They still are in many ways. The Republicans are still bad in many ways. We don't take political sides on this program. But Debbie, I know you also, I think you gave kudos out there to the many pro-life Democrats that there are.
I did. I don't know if you heard it, Marlene, or you were getting ready to dial in. I actually said there are pro-life Democrats, and I made that comment before you had called in. So we do recognize that, Marlene, and I can hear how that does hurt you, because you want your heart and your understanding of things to be known. This is the one thing I just would say, though, and it's unfortunate for these parties that have aligned themselves a certain way, and they think they are all of these issues. And if you don't fit into this box, then you're not really a true Republican or Democrat or independent or whatever. As I just would say this, Marlene, you need to be more vocal. You need to say, I'm a pro-life Democrat, and then watch what people respond to you so that you can educate them. I think it's very important that you and everybody else who is pro-life become more vocal so that we can break these kind of restraints that we're under, that everybody thinks it has to be, you have to, believe all of this, and that makes you a diehard Republican or a staunch Democrat. So would you agree with that, Marlene, that when you look at the news, you don't hear a lot about the pro-life Democrats. Would you agree with that, at least?
Yes, my husband and I are very active in the DFL party up in our town, and I do voice my opinion, and I do talk to my priest about it. I just don't like to be lumped as an abortionist. I'm very, very pro-life, although I am a Democrat. And I guess change will come about as we begin to get out and talk more to people and share our views.
Right.
Yeah, and Marlene, by the way, if I didn't state what I wanted to state as well as I could have, or as clearly as I could have, and misled you into thinking that I was, lumping you together with those who are not pro-life, I want to personally apologize to you and really thank you for listening to the program and having the sense within you to want to call in and state your thoughts on this. So I really apologize if I offended you in any way, and we're just grateful to have you as a listener.
No, Jerry, you didn't offend me. I grew up the same way you did, and I was always the Democrat. But, now that I'm older, I know the difference between, pro-life and what's been done to the Kurdish people is breaking my heart. So that's where I'm coming from.
Right. Well, you have a beautiful heart and soul, and I think it's wonderful that you can, help others to understand this better, because I think a lot of times we're in a mess. I mean, people do just check off that box based on what somebody else has told them, or a family member, or this or that, or what they think the party stands for, and they may not really know. I mean, I think we're all about having these great conversations so we can learn and grow. So thank you, Marlene. Thank you for having the courage to call in, and thank you for sharing from your heart. We are here to help one another. We're the mystical body of Christ, and our only goal is that we all journey together. And I think it's beautiful that you felt so comfortable, and I hope you call again, okay?
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Jerry.
God bless you, Marlene. Thanks for the call. 833-288-3986. Is our world shallow? Is it? Are there pockets of real depth and richness and substance that you recognize or not? We are talking about that today, and our good friend Stantal Carol from Burlington, Wisconsin, is going to join us next. And she and Jim listen on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Jerry. Hi, Debbie.
How are you?
Nice to see you and nice to hear you.
Hi, Carol.
Happy birthday to Debbie. I hope you have some fun. I hope the listeners storm heaven with Hail Marys to have this your best birthday ever.
Thank you.
And you're such a treasure. So thank you for being born.
Aww.
And my comment on shallowness was, my comment on shallowness was that I have a slogan that I use for myself in recovery is, without humility, there is no growth. And because sometimes I want to judge or have a superior moment or whatever, and when I do that, I stop learning. And there's a very funny joke about a man who's waiting to go into his aftercare addictions group, and he's sitting and he sees a guy walk in with a 5 o'clock shadow, his shirt hanging out, his cup of to-go coffee from a cheaper place, and he goes, "Oh gosh, I hope that guy's not in my group." And the other guy says to him, "Oh, he is. He's your counselor." And so when the people, when you judge people and you make these things, you somehow you get short-sheeted and by your own hand. So if I'm mostly shallow out of fear, and I have to push myself to go forward and try to know the world better. So that's what I got today.
Well, that's great, Carol. Thank you. And you're very, very right. We don't get to know who other people really are. Maybe our family members, a few people who are very, very close to us, even in the workplace. But people have dignity and worth and value and nobility, and we should treat them with regard to all of those things. But how do we do that best? Is we get to know who they are. But that requires time spent with them, conversation, and even self-sacrifice on our part. We talked about selfishness on the program before, and Debbie, I think Carol's point here is if we all did get to know each other better, I think the world would be a better place.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what, Carol, you were bringing up things that just made me just chuckle, because this is one of the reasons why I don't like cocktail parties. I find the conversation to be very surface and very shallow. I mean, you're talking, and please, no disrespect to cocktail parties, and you don't have to send me emails. I still like the food and all that. Okay, but you meet somebody for the first time, and you're talking about their children that you've never met before. And you're like, well, this has no bearing. This doesn't mean anything. And it's interesting because my life skills trainer he's in his 80s. He was from East Germany. He was born in that area during very difficult times, and he had to leave. His family had to leave and flee for their life. And he said something that was so powerful that he said it every single class because everybody took notes constantly trying to remember it. He said, "You only know a person as much as they know God. You only know a person as much as they know God." Now, that's pretty deep, right? But yet we live in this kind of surface, shallow world and making these judgments and assumptions about people, not even knowing who they really are. It's very interesting. You brought that all up. You jogged my memory, Carol, as you were speaking. But what do you think about that?
That's an amazing statement from your trainer. That's really, really, that you're not just judging everybody on a string of superficials, but you're judging them on who they truly are or who their soul is. So thank you for giving me that today, Debbie. It's a gift.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, you can thank Hans. He was great. Yeah, but yeah, I agree.
Hans, you're the dude.
Yeah, really. Yeah, no, but it's true though, Jerry, when you think about it, because how do you know where somebody's come from is? You know, when you're saying, "Hi, Jerry, nice to meet you." And so your kids, oh yeah, what are their names? I mean, that's oh yes, that is getting to know them. That's an icebreaker. But do you really know them? You know, it's very interesting.
Yeah, probably not at that point, but a key to getting to know other people, who they are, and the depth that they have is by listening. And I think we have a crisis of listening, at least to other people right now. Everyone's walking around with earbuds in their ears, listening to something to distract them from getting to know other people. But we need to really, sit down with people and give them the opportunity to share their story, who they are, because everybody has one, and everyone, appreciates the opportunity to get to be known on a bit of a deeper level. So thank you, Stand Tall. Carol, you and Jim have a beautiful and blessed day. We always love to hear from you.
Thank you. Love you both. Bye-bye now.
Love you
Bye,
too.
Carol. Thank you. Okay, let's hear what Paul has to say in Toledo, Ohio. I'm going to be there next week, Paul. I checked the calendar, and it's pretty cold in Toledo, but I'm ready. I got my coat dusted off in Arizona from Annunciation Radio. First-time caller. Welcome, Paul.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I moved to Toledo 3 years ago from New Mexico, and I'm really jealous that you're still in Arizona.
Okay. I'll bring some Arizona sunshine with me, okay?
Okay.
Don't they sell it in cans at novelty stores?
No, I wish they did.
Fire away, Paul.
Just the thing I wanted to say, that the show on before you was on Annunciation Radio in Toledo was End of Life Decision. And I was just thinking that one of the reasons why the world is shallow is that we're really, we have pretty long lifespans and we have lots of things to entertain us. So nobody really wants to engage in a serious conversation because they just want to keep everything light. Like, they don't want to talk about deaths. They don't want to talk about anything that's going to open themselves to criticism or anything else.
Okay.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you start to get deep with people, you can see them actually physically, close up and back away, and they don't want to enter into any kind of conversation that's going to make them feel uncomfortable or have to, express a certain way or cause any problem. We're so PC trained that we can spot it a mile away. And so we don't want that confrontation. It's really sad because I think that's why we walk around. And I think on your comments, Paul, when you called to our call screener, it says we're detached from one another. I couldn't agree more. We're so detached. And yet we have all this technology that's supposed to bring us together.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting. Go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
We don't talk about anything important.
Right.
We write Facebook comments about what we had for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
right.
It's not anything. It's not love. It's not death. It's not God. It's just diversion.
Yeah, and being a former disc jockey, Paul and Debbie, there's a song in just about everything. And I think it was Cliff Richard who did a song many years ago called It's So Funny We Don't Talk Anymore. And that was about, him and his, romantic relationship, I presume. But I think that can apply to our culture as well. And being a gym rat for all of my life, I've always gone to the gym and worked out. And I have seen over the past, 10, 15, 20 years, a total decline, sort of a withdrawing within themselves of, I probably do it too, but a lot of people used to be, you'd go to the gym, you're waiting for a machine, you're chatting with somebody, you go into the sauna or the steam room, a conversation would break out, you talk about things that are going on in the world or whatever. Nowadays, I get these funny looks if I just say hello to somebody. I want to try to be friendly and acknowledge their
They
their
think you're
person.
strange.
Yeah. They just. And
Why
some
are you
people,
talking to me?
Well, yeah, and some people they will not make eye contact because they just do not. Maybe it's because of what you said, Debbie. They just don't want to. They fear getting involved in a conversation where there's going to be a little bit of substance.
Right. Well, and let's when we have these conversations, guys, we're just tossing things out there. Picture this: you're in our virtual living room, okay, with a cool drink, and you're sitting down, and we're just shooting the breeze, right? And we're talking about things that we're trying to change the world, right, on these conversations. But sometimes we make statements. We're not trying to overgeneralize or trying to stereotype or kind of pigeonhole people into different categories. We're just expressing the things that cannot be spoken about in this world anymore and at the workplace. Let's face it, you can't do it anymore. You could get called into human resources and saying, Jerry, stop that. No more talking about your religion. This is why we have these conversations. So I just want to say there's some comments coming in right now that, maybe we are making statements about shallowness. You're right. My husband could be accused of being shallow. He's not. He's just a very reserved character and personality. He's a very deep thinker, and he's a wonderful person, and he's very religious. And he could be possibly accused of being shallow because he doesn't say much. So we're taking all the elements into this conversation. So please understand that I can see some comments are already coming in that are maybe disagreeing with the direction that this great discussion is going.
Okay, Paul, thank you for joining us and being part of the program. We appreciate that. I think we have time to get over to Thad in Boston, Massachusetts, listening on EWTN.com, and a first-time caller. Hi, Thad. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi, how's it going, guys?
Hi,
Pretty
Thad.
well, Thad. So glad you called.
Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this?
All right. Let me just start off by saying that I've struggled with this question in the past at times. Say, when I've gone through some personal stuff or spiritual kind of situations. And I honestly still don't really know where I fall with this question. And but before I say anything, I know it's really easy for someone to present themselves as shallow at times when it's actually quite the opposite. And that can lead to us making unfair assumptions.
Right. Well, Thad, did you hear what I said about my husband? That my people could think my husband's very shallow because he's very reserved. He's a man of few words, but he's actually a very deep thinker. Yeah. He processes things. So no, I totally agree with you on that.
A deep thinker and a savage. Yeah. And I really want to believe that the world is not shallow. And I have an example from my inner circle that I think I can kind of use as a scope here. And there's also kind of a situation that's been making me ponder this question and kind of have an issue of where I fall on it, to be honest. And so I moved into a house with my friend, G, we can call him G, and we've known each other forever, but just lately moved in for the first time, and we've been going through some hardships because he's very protective of his possessions, and that can lead to some conflict because, we're sharing a space. And last week, he was out, and I was doing some cleaning in the living room and moved some of his clothes to the bedroom, his bedroom, and later that day, I was out at Good Stuff Still doing some shopping, and I see a text on my phone from him that says, excuse my language here.
Thad, tell you what, we've gotta leave it at that point right there. Feel free to email us if you want with any further expounding upon that at take2@ewtn.com. But you are right. We can easily make assumptions. Just think, if we gauged whether a person's shallow or not based on their personality or how outgoing they are or how vibrant or talkative they are, well, there are a lot of contemplative monks and nuns who would be considered very, very shallow. So, Debbie, I think that's where we have to leave it on this program.
Yeah, you can always email us, take2@ewtn.com. Tomorrow we're talking about embracing life. We'll see you then. Have a beautiful and blessed day.